Randy, I don't have a button for it.
It told me I couldn't. It said you cannot start your video because the powers that be has stopped it.
Shoot. All right.
That's why I asked.
All right.
I'll go here.
I think we got to make him a co-host.
You can.
Yeah, that's what we were going to do earlier.
We haven't been able to do that before. Turn our own video on and off.
Cody, you got any guidance on that?
Cody's not in here.
He's coming. He needs to go and start everything and he'll be back.
Okay.
You need to be able to get up and go to do something if you need to cover your video or uncover it.
I think Nathan needs you to make Randy a co-host. Is he already one? Randy Laney?
Yeah, second to it.
All right.
I did allow panels to show the video.
Mine is not showing me.
Hey, Bob, how'd it go?
Muted.
And I'm doing good. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay. I may look funny,
Pretty
but
cool
I'm
piece
doing
of hardware
good.
there.
Yeah. Got my
As long as it
Halloween
still works,
outfit
that's
on.
good.
You
Yeah,
look better, Bob.
I know. I tell you what, I got my outfit on here.
Nathan, is it still me, Bob, and Randy, the only ones on? No, Philip's on, so there's 4 of us.
We got Joel, Bob, Philip, Randy, and Neil.
Okay.
Cody said we're good to go anytime.
Yeah, if you're ready.
We're good to go? All right. My clock had hit 5. I'll make sure it's 5 before we get started.
Yeah, let's do it right now.
Hey, Nathan, can you hear me?
There's Jay. Hey, Jay.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Nathan, who's going to run the timer?
Sam, you got that?
Yes. Don't need to share screens so everyone can see it?
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
And that'll be during public comment.
got it.
All right, so are we good?
Go ahead and pull up
Can you guys hear me?
timer there. Just have it ready. Probably about 3 minutes.
We can hear you, Juliana. Thank you. Sorry.
All right, if we're ready, if everybody's ready and all the kinks are good, then I'm going to call the November 5th, 2020 Washington County Planning Board meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Joel Kelsey,
Here.
Randy Laney,
Here.
Jay Piercy. Believe he's going to be a little late, should be in soon. Neil Helm,
Here.
Philip Humbard,
Here.
Walter Jennings, absent, and Robert Downey.
Here.
Julie J is in attendance. He's right here.
Okay. With that, if everybody's had a chance to look at last month's meeting minutes, if there's not any changes or anything we need to do, I'll take a motion in a second for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes as presented.
All right, got a motion?
Second.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Second.
I got your second.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. On to the agenda. Mr. Planning Director, are there any changes to that, or is the agenda as is? And
As published, sir.
all right, I'll take a motion in a second on approval of the agenda as is.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, on to new business. First part's going to be the conditional use permit hearing, but let me get this out of the way first with a few items that are on the agenda tonight. I'm going to go over the explanation of the rules of conduct for all those that are listening to where that they understand what we're going to be doing. But the staff will present each project and give their recommendations. After that is done, then the applicant will have the opportunity to present any additional information or their presentation. After that, any other applicable professionals such as the health department, road department, et cetera, will add any additional recommendations or comments from there. At that point, I'll open it up for public comment. Nathan, you may need to help me on the explanation of this, but if you will look to the right of your screen, there should be an icon there as a hand to be able to click on it. That'll mean that you've raised your hand and you would like the opportunity to speak. The planning staff will go through those one at a time. With that, each individual will have 3 minutes in order to present their statements. If you're speaking for a group, you will have 10 minutes in order to do that. Sam here in the room with me will be running the clock. Try to keep that to as courteous as we can in reference to the 3 and the 10 minutes. After all members of the public have spoken and closed, sometimes there is rebuttal to some of the questions or issues that the public may have brought up. That'll be brought back to the planning board and to the applicant. From there, once all those issues are explained and addressed, then it'll be brought back to the planning board for a motion and then a vote. If anybody doesn't have any questions, then we will move through the agenda. So the first item up on the board is Bobby Russell Residential CUP. And it's presented by Asita.
Would a host please allow screen sharing?
Should be good.
Oh, thank you. All right, everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Thank you. Item A on the agenda is the Bobby Russell Residential Conditional Use Permit request. The request is located within the western portion of the county and is located just north of the city of Lincoln. The project parcel is just outside of the city of Lincoln's planning area, so it is solely county jurisdiction, and it is located east of the Jackson Highway. It's along Sparrow Road, Washington County, number 3618. And just so you know, the imagery that we used in tonight's presentation was taken around December 2019 or early January 2020. Just to keep that in mind, these images don't get updated until the winter of the following year. In this image, to the right of the poultry house, which has the red roof, is an existing residence. The applicant is Mr. Bob Russell, and he is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a second dwelling on his property. The parcel is approximately 1.82 acres according to the county GIS map. Section 11-191.1A states that residential parcels must be sized no less than 1 acre per single residential dwelling. So the addition of the second dwelling would make this property non-compliant with current county zoning. Section 11-200 states what the criteria of conditional uses are. The applicant has satisfied items 1 through 3. However, conditions 4 through 7 are much more subjective. So the applicant's parcel is located towards the end of a small residential road, Sparrow Road, Washington County, 3618. It is the second to last parcel to utilize this road. The applicant's property is surrounded by mostly wooded properties to the south. There's pasture to the north. Though the property is near the city of Lincoln, its location does seem remote. This is Sparrow Road, Washington County 3618, headed towards the applicant's property. And this is upon entering the applicant's property. And this is leaving the applicant's property. And this is the existing residence. And this is the 16 by 55 residence that was drawn on the site plan shown earlier. It's already been brought onto the property, and it's already had its septic and other utility permits approved and installed. In the applicant's updated explanation letter, they stated that this new residence is for their grandchild and their grandchild's family. Staff has reviewed the CUP submittal documents and feels that the addition of a second residence on the parcel with a density of less than 1 unit per acre can be made compatible with current county ordinances with the following conditions. And these conditions have not been updated since the board was sent the staff report. Any questions?
Any member of the board have a question? All right. Nathan, we got anybody in the public that would like to speak in reference to this?
No, sir, there are no hands up.
All right, then I'll bring it back to the board for your pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the Bobby Russell CUP as presented, subject to staff recommendations.
I'll
Got a
second that.
motion? Got a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, it passes. Next item up is Blue Springs RV Park CUP, presented by CETA again.
All right, the Blue Springs CUP. Let me get it up. There we go. All right, item B, the Blue Springs RV Park conditional use permit request. This project is located within the northeastern portion of the county and is along the south side of East Highway 412 and can be found on Blue Springs Road, Washington County 70. The applicant, the project parcel is currently vacant and is bordered along the western side by Blue Springs Road. The applicant is Capstone Builders, and they are seeking a conditional use permit to allow the development and operation of an RV park in phases in an area that is zoned for agricultural and single-family residential uses of 1 unit per acre. So this first phase will have approximately 55 RV sites. There will be some permanent structures such as an office, pool area, laundry area. There'll be a meeting facility, some dog kennels. The applicant will maintain their RV park grounds by utilizing contracted labor. Enforced quiet time along the natural wooded buffer should help to screen noise and lights from nearby neighbors. The second phase will have around 56 RV sites. The final number of RV sites for each phase will be finalized when the applicant returns with their large-scale development request. These numbers could change as the applicant needs to make changes to their site plan. If this project sounds familiar, it's because it has come before the planning board before. At the October 4th, 2012 planning board meeting, the project was approved. The Quorum Court ratified the CUP on October 18th, 2012. The applicant, however, was not able to complete their project in the time allowed by the CUP. Oh, there it is. So section 11-200 states the criteria for allowance of conditional uses. The applicant has satisfied items 1 through 3 and the remaining 4 items are more subjective. Since the county has only one zoning designation, staff utilized assessor data to see what the surrounding parcel uses were. The subject parcel is in the middle of the screen. It's shaded in reddish, and highlighted in red. Anything green has an agricultural assessment or use. The pink is residential. The reddish represents commercial uses, and the yellowish colors are parcels that are exempt from assessment, like those would be churches, the highway, most government-owned properties. So this dark circle represents a 1 mile buffer. And within 1 mile of the project parcel, there are approximately 140 agricultural uses, 11 commercial uses, 62 are exempt, and that would include the parcels that make up Beaver Lake and Highway 412. And 483 were considered residential. So if we look at just the project parcel, we can see that it's been assessed with the commercial use type, hence the reddish color. The assessment states that a portion of the acreage has been designated as a quarry use. And from what staff could gather from prior project notes, the site had been used as a small mining operation. The quarry was never permitted through the county nor the state, and it was eventually shut down. And eventually ownership of the property changed. And here we are today. So this is what the property looks like today. It no longer resembles a mining operation. Instead, it's basically just a cleared area surrounded by woods. Here's just another view of it looking northeast, southeast, and there was a gate that was locked. So the pictures are not, in there. They're from the entrance. And this is looking directly across the street at the entrance to the property. So the blue star represents where staff was standing when the pictures were taken. Please note that this is not where the RV park entrance will be located. Currently, there's no cutout for the actual entrance yet, or if there is one, I could not find it. But standing at the existing entrance, this is looking north. The applicant's project letter stated that from the actual entrance of the RV park, so more south of where I was standing, the site distance is estimated to be approximately 500 feet. This is looking south. Estimated site distance would be around 400 feet from the actual RV park entrance. The actual site distances for north and south or left and right will be calculated during the large-scale development portion. This is what is directly across the street from where staff was parked. So except from the cleared area of the project parcel, the area, it's surrounded by woods. So just to give the planning board more visual representation of the timber or wooded areas. Again, the subject parcel is outlined in red. There's a large portion of the parcel that's wooded. The parcels surrounding the subject parcel are also wooded. Here's a little bit of a closer view. Planning staff has asked the applicant to consider the preservation of as much wooded space as possible to utilize as a buffer between the RV park and some of the surrounding neighbors. So when considering nearby residences, staff only looked at residences on adjoining parcels since these have the most potential to be disrupted by development. The nearest residences ranged from 38 feet to as far as 991 feet. The nearest two residences are at the northern end of the project's parcel. The residence directly north does not seem to have any natural occurring vegetation to act as screening. The northeastern residence has wooded areas between it and the development site. Staff will require landscaping and a screening plan during the large-scale portion of the project. Notifications were mailed to all surrounding property owners within 300 feet. To date, staff has not received comments against or in favor of the project. There were no comments against the project when it was presented in 2012. Oops. So, nearby CUPs. Across Highway 412, there have been 3 major CUPs granted. In green is the Heritage Fellowship Church, which was ratified in 2018. In pink is the King's Ransom RV Park, which was ratified earlier in 2020. And in blue, the River's Edge RV Park, which was also ratified earlier in 2020. There are all 3 other RV parks within the area. Again, we have River's Edge, King's Ransom, and Pilgrim's Rest. River's Edge has approximately 67 RV spaces. King's Ransom has approximately 110. Pilgrim's Rest has maybe around 40. And Pilgrim's Rest is also it's the oldest. So there wasn't a lot of information on it. We think that potentially it's been in existence since before current county zoning.
Let me point something out, Sita. I
Mhm.
apologize for interrupting. I just wanted to point out that King's Ransom was a CUP that was ratified, but it hasn't been constructed yet.
Thank you. Yesterday, staff received comments from the Beaver Water District. We thought it was very important to bring this up. They state in their letter that they're opposed at this time to the CUP the way that it is. They say that the requested CUP, as it is, poses a threat to the water quality of Beaver Lake, and that the proposed development would further increase residential densities in close proximity to the lake. The Beaver Water District states they would agree to the proposed RV density if the developer would permanently cap the RV number, or the number of RV spaces at 32 for the entire area instead of the proposed 111 RV spaces and 8 home sites. The Beaver Water District fears that any density less than 1 unit per acre could lead to additional pollution of the lake. So at this time, staff has reviewed the submittal documents and feel that the RV park can be made compatible with county ordinances with current conditions, and these conditions have been updated since the time of the staff report. Staff has added that landscaping barriers such as trees, shrubs, and or fencing may be required during the large-scale development portion. Any questions?
Yes, Sita, can you go back to the map that showed all of those on there, please?
This map?
Yeah, that's the one I want to look at. I want to look
Okay.
at how close they are to the lake versus the other two.
Oh, I did not take measurements, so I apologize.
No, that's fine. That gives me enough to look at.
Okay.
So, and this property is currently zoned commercial?
The Blue Springs RV Park CUP currently has a CUP on it that is expired. The area is zoned the agriculture single family residential of 1 unit per acre.
Okay. Does anybody else on the board have any questions? All right, Nathan, we have anybody in the public that would like to speak?
Ms. Sheila raised her hand.
Okay.
I've got one, Shannon Sherman. I'll go ahead and give her the permission.
Okay.
Hello.
Can you hear? Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. I've talked to some of the neighbors locally, and first of all, I'd like to say I've spoken to Mr. Ditch. I consider him a friend. He's been very transparent with this project from the first time I met him. So in essence, some of the concerns that I would have and the neighbors have brought to my attention is the curve to the north of the site. It's kind of a small S curve. And it's an accurate statement from some that the traffic can be a little bit a concern there when you meet gravel trucks, etc. And so it was brought to my attention, and it is a valid concern about the road. That may be a county issue, not Mr. Ditch's issue. So what I'm stating is that curve, a lot of people, the one you're looking at, there's another one that kind of swings back toward the left, and people will cross that yellow line quite frequently. So, that's something to consider, I would think, as a commission. And then the other, for me personally, Mr. Ditch has also been very open about the water that he has there from the county or the city in this case. But we are on a spring. We're not even on a drilled well. And I have a ravine that backs up to that property. I don't feel like he would purposely cause any issues as far as my drinking water. But right now, I don't have any access to county water. So my concern would be that we could rest assured that my drinking water would not be affected. I know some of the other neighbors on well water, but those are two of the biggest concerns that have been brought to my attention.
Okay, Mr. Sherman, can you state your address too, please, along with that, where we have that for record?
My wife and I are at 20416 Blue Springs Road.
All right, thank you. Nathan, next.
Cody Sexton.
Let's see. Hello, can you guys hear us?
Yes.
We got you, Cody. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Cody Sexton with Blue and Associates, and I'm sitting here with Mr. Ditch, the developer. Would you guys be able to surrender control of the screen to me?
Cody, if you will, we'll open this up to, I misstepped by not allowing y'all to present before that. We're in the public comment section.
Okay.
If you will let me get through that, then I will turn that back over to you and let you address those, okay?
Okay, that's fine. We
Nathan, have we got anybody else up there?
Nathan, you're muted.
James McCarty from Beaver Water District.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. I appreciate you all for taking my comment. You have my letter there, and I'm thankful that you brought that up to the attention of the board. I just want to point out just the sheer number of RV parks going in this area. We negotiated with the King's Ransom Park for them to limit the density to the number of acres that they had, which allowed them to maintain the current county density. And we're essentially just asking to be consistent with this RV park as well. You'll notice that it's on a very small lot, and the final proposed plan is upwards of 120 RV spots. We're concerned about the precedent that this continued development of the lake is setting, and it's kind of really been realized by more and more RV parks showing up to this area, which contribute a pollutant load to the lake. So those are our concerns, and again, I just thank you for showing our letter and making those concerns aware to the board.
All right, thank you. Nathan, anyone else?
Second. That's it for all the hands that are raised.
Okay, can you go back to Mr. Sexton, please, with Blue and Associates?
Coming up. Cody, you're promoted to panelist, and you should be able to share your screen.
Cody, you there? Did we lose him, Nathan?
I don't see him anymore.
All right, now can you hear us?
Yeah, we got you now.
Excellent. And hey, there we are.
All right, Sam, stop sharing your screen so Cody can. There we go.
Okay, and Boy, I've got an awful lot of stuff here open. We had some answers to a few of the questions that were brought up. I am screen sharing. Okay, you guys can see that?
Good. Yep.
One of the questions that was brought up was distances of the other nearby parks as far as to the lake. I had that same thought this afternoon when we were looking at it. I don't have the other two, the King's Ransom and the Pilgrims, that are further off to the side, but I did look at the topography and map out for exactly that purpose, just to see, you know, if you dumped a cup of water on the ground here at our project, how long does it take for it to run downhill and run through the woods and run through the vegetation before it does hit the lake? If we look over here at River's Edge, it breaks in two directions. And in one direction, it's about 1,000 feet before it hits the water. And in the other direction, it's about 2,200 feet. River's Edge having been approved and everything. And if we come back to our project and look at the same type of thing, we are farther in every direction. So 2,700 feet. We have a bridge down through this line, so half of it breaks this way. The other side is a longer meandering pathway, and that's 3,200 feet to the water. So that was brought up, and we had the answer. So we just wanted to bring that up to give you guys an idea. You know, if a cup of water is thrown out on the property, well, that's how far it's got to go before it hits the lake. So, you know, we're going through vegetation and green space and everything else like that. Also, there was some discussion on the wooded area on the property. It is the intent of the developer that pretty much for the most part, all of the wooded area that is there now is for the most part going to stay where it is once everything is developed. The footprint of the units at the overall plan, that basically falls into place with what's already cleared. So that was the plan, to maintain as much vegetation as possible. Also, it is part of the developer's plan that he has is it 5 acres?
5 acres.
He has a 5-acre section up here on the north that he is going to maintain free and clear as a buffer against the residents that is to the north. Otherwise, I guess just important things to bring up. As has been mentioned before, this project has been approved with no issues and comments in the past, and it's just a matter of the conditional use permit expiring before the project could get fully underway. And also, as we can see, very similar projects have been approved and been constructed and ready to get going nearby in the area. So we just had a few answers to some questions that have been brought up. Anything else we need to bring up? I think that's all we've got at the moment.
All right. Thanks, Cody. And again, I apologize that I didn't have you before public comment.
That's okay. The whole Zoom thing is, we're getting used to it.
There you go. Does anybody, it'll be back to the board for any questions. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Joe or Cody, somebody, where is the septic going to be put at? I didn't see
Sorry, I just put him back to as an attendee. Let me get him back up so you can ask him that question.
Okay, well, I just don't see it on anything that's been presented.
I'm assuming that'll be when they present their large scale plan, but
I just wonder if they had a general idea of where they're going to put it.
yeah.
Hello, I think we're back.
Yep.
Cody, this is Phil Humbard. Just a question. Do you have an area that you are proposing to put the septic in, or has that? is yet
We
determined, or-
do, and
We've had it looked at by the engineer in the park, and there was
we do, and we've had that assessed by the soils engineers on that. Here's the general footprint. We have a small, we're not screen sharing anymore, are we?
No,
We're
you're
not,
not.
but you can share screen again, Cody. I apologize.
Okay.
I cut you off.
Let's see. Shared screen. All right, you guys have my screen now?
Got it.
Here is our site in general, and this is the main septic field
Green
in this
box?
area, and then there's a smaller independent one for the office area over this way. So basically this green outline and that one.
Okay, and you said what was the status of those?
What's our status on those?
we've had an engineer do a soil survey and stuff, and say it was suitable for what we were doing. We did all that before we even designed it. That was the first thing we did.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna design it when we do the full scale or large scale development plan.
Cody, if those are your two locations, can you tell me how far those are from the lake?
I sure can. Let's see. Those both pretty much match up to the ends that I have here. That's why I picked them.
Okay. Okay.
So 2,700 to one and 3,200 from the second.
All right. I guess it's back to the board. You know, my only concern would be that, you know, it's another RV park and it's almost like we're saturating that area with them. They're in close proximity, but I'll bring it to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of the CUP with the conditions limited, and we'll see what the large scale looks like, but I would make the motion to approve it.
Second.
All right. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right. Blue Springs RV Park CUP passes. All right. On to the next item on the agenda, which is the Ozark Solar Park CUP. And Cedar, you're up again.
Just a quick moment. It's a lot of buttons to press. Okay, here we go. Item C, the Ozark Solar Park conditional use permit. This project is located within the western portion of the county and it's just north of the city of Lincoln. It's just right outside of the city's planning area. There was a little bit of confusion whether or not this was actually within the planning area, and just to clarify before we go further, it is not. There's a very small overlap between the parcel boundary layer and the planning area layer of the mapping system. Any overlap just triggers some of the documents to state that it's within the planning area. So just again, to clarify that it is not within the planning area. The project parcel is approximately 16.54 acres in size, and it's currently vacant. The applicant is Today's Power, Inc., and they were requesting a conditional use permit to allow the development and operation of a solar battery storage facility on our parcel that is currently zoned for agricultural and single-family residential uses of 1 unit per acre. Here is a close-up of their site plan and where they potentially have their solar panel arrays. And these are the criteria for allowance of conditional uses. Items 1 through 3 have been satisfied. The remaining 4 are, of course, more subjective. The black circle is a 1 mile radius around the project site location. The parcels in green are agricultural uses, the blue are residential uses, and the orange would be considered commercial. Again, the project site is vacant, and it's been utilized in an agricultural way in the past. While solar panels are not an agricultural use, they're also not a typical commercial use. There won't be a constant stream of visitors, parking will be limited, and the solar arrays will be behind a fence and a locked gate. The applicant plans to have battery energy storage containers on the property. Their letter states they will have 3 of these containers on site. The containers are approximately 10 feet by 40 feet. Additionally, the ground underneath the solar panel arrays will not be disturbed. Whatever vegetation is there now will actually remain under the array. The facility is quiet and should not be heard from the street. Planning staff will require screening and landscaping plans during the large-scale phase of this project. Native plants and pollinator landscaping will be discussed at that time. Staff looked at adjacent or closest parcels with residences to see which properties may be affected most by the proposal. To the north is a residence that's approximately 85 feet away. To the south is a residence that's about 127 feet away. Staff feels that these 2 residences might be most affected. Again, during the large-scale portion, staff will work with the applicant on screening and landscaping conditions to help make the proposal more compatible and to hopefully have a screening method that will satisfy both residences. Here's an image of the residence to the north from the street entrance. And the yellow star represents where the house on the south side is. It's kind of hidden behind those trees. Excuse me. So this is the site distance looking north of the property entrance. North Jackson Highway is very flat and straight. And this is what's directly across. And this is looking right or south. Actual site distance measurements will be addressed during the large-scale portion of the project. Notifications detailing the project were sent to surrounding property owners within 300 feet. To date, staff has not received any comments against or in favor of the project. Staff has reviewed the CUP submittal documents and feel that the proposed solar battery storage facility can be made compatible with county ordinances with the following conditions on the screen. And these conditions have not changed since the time of your staff report. Any questions?
Thanks, Steve. Anybody from the board have any questions?
I have one. I think it's important when you're looking at solar to consider topography. I know we normally don't speak to that, but what's the elevation here? Is it the top of the hill, bottom of the hill? Give me some idea of the topography. Very
Flat at this particular spot. Oops, excuse me.
So how far to you're looking down on it? I was actually hoping it'd be the top of a hill instead of everybody looking down at it.
You can see looking in this direction. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but you can see where the road goes up.
Yeah.
So for coming from the opposite direction towards where I was standing, once we get over that hill, it's flat. And that hill is not very big. Again, it's very gradual going in the opposite direction. And you can see it looks like it's going uphill. I don't have any actual figures as to what the topography actually is.
Yeah. I don't know that I'm going to be insistent on deferring it until we find out. But I know the company I'm on the board of, we do tons of solar everywhere, and we're always challenged by topography. The reflection can, you can be 2 miles away and be blinded in your living room by the reflection of these because they work very well. So it's important to consider. I suppose you could screen that, but yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable not knowing how it lays. Bob, do you, Bill, you all know what that's like out there?
Well, it's the best I remember. It's fairly flat there, and then on north it will drop down into a valley, but it's on past this place.
Yeah,
where it drops down into a valley. So it's basically on top there with Lincoln, and of course Lincoln drops off in several different directions, but so it's basically on top and flat, but so it's not going to drop off into it for a mile or two, probably something like that.
Yeah. I just had one other question. See, that it uses the word Ozark, but this has nothing to do with the Ozark Electric Co-op. This is a for-profit thing that is called an Ozark.
Yes, they just called it Ozark. That's correct.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody from the applicant, Today's Power, here that wants to speak? See anybody, Nathan?
I've got a hand up for the applicant. Just one moment.
Okay.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, this is Matt Irving. I'm the vice president of Today's Power. And thank you for taking my call, and thank you for considering this CUP. And just wanted to let you know I am here. I'm happy to answer any questions. To speak towards what one of the commissioners was asking about glaring issues, we've not had a huge issue. I will say that this system is a tracker system, so it doesn't stay in one fixed position that would create a constant glare on at any location. We are working with Ozarks Electric on this project. They will be part of the off-taker for the storage portion of it.
Okay. If we don't have any other comments from the applicant or the board, then Nathan, I'll open it up to public comment. I know we do have one gentleman here in the room with us that would like to speak. Do you have anybody else?
No, sir. I don't see any other hands up at this moment. Go right ahead with your attendee.
Sir, if you'll come up here and sit in this chair and then state your name and address, please.
Name and what?
Your name and address, please. Is that microphone on, Sam?
No, you won't need the microphone.
You won't need the microphone. Okay, gotcha. All right, we're good. That's right. Okay.
Hi, my name is Steve Shepard. My address is 11115 Weddington Blacktop Road. If you go back to that original map, that house is 85 feet from this property. That is my house. I just received all this Thursday, and I have retained a lawyer yesterday, and he called me about 10 minutes to 5 tonight, and he is tied up in court, so he couldn't be here. So I haven't been contacted by anybody about what's going on with this, what they're doing. This is the first, that, like I said, Thursday that I found out about it. They're talking about my property value, my home value could go down as much as 20% with all this. It's not only behind me, it's beside me. So I'm basically surrounded by this whole deal. On the map, you can see where they're going to put the battery packs and the other stuff, which is going to be right beside my house. The solar panels are all 16 point something acres, all behind me there. My lawyer supposed to be, I'm supposed to give him a call when I get out of here. He wanted to know what's going on and stuff. He wants to start filing some kind of action because we have no idea what's going on. I haven't been contacted by any electric people, anybody. So just kind of up in the air over this stuff and don't have any idea. I understand it's something to do with the city of Lincoln. It's gonna provide the city business, the city halls or something with electricity. And I don't understand how the city can build out here in the county. I thought they had to do their own within their city limits or whatever. I'm not real sure. That's why I had to get an attorney to. So anyway, of all the places, I'm the only home that's there. If you look on that map, there's nothing behind me, beside me, across the street from me. There's a barn up on the hill there. There's 2 chicken houses beside me. And since this coronavirus started, I don't know if that has something to do with it, but he hasn't been running any chickens since roughly February in there. There was 3 chicken houses on that property that was behind me where these solar panels are going, and he tore them down and buried them out there. I don't know if anybody knows that or not. But anyway, that's, you know, if you guys could just hold off a little bit till, you know, my lawyer finds out exactly what's going on with all this and I find out, you know, I'd really appreciate it. I kind of feel like they're kind of like rushing through this or whatever, you know. I really don't feel that's right, you know, not knowing what's going on. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan, do you want to explain procedural on how the mail outs are done and the time frame and so forth?
Yes, sir. By ordinance, our neighbor notifications go out 2 weeks prior to the planning board meeting. And indeed, he says he received his Thursday. Well, tonight's Thursday, so he's got it for a week. That's what our ordinance tells us that we have to do, and that's what we did. Additionally, there's a 30-day appeal period following this meeting if the CUP is approved. If the CUP is denied, there's also a 30-day appeal period.
Okay, sir, you understand that?
So 30 days from.
Yeah, the notice was sent out correctly. You know, if you said you got it since Thursday, you've had it a week. So if, you know, with what you and your attorney are talking about, whether it's approved or not approved tonight, there's a 30-day appeal process.
From tonight?
From tonight, yes, sir.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
you got it. All right, is that everybody from the public, Nathan?
Yes, sir.
All right, then it's back to the board. Anybody unmuted? I'm trying to look.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Ozark Solar Park CUP with staff
Do I have a
comment.
motion?
Second.
In a second, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, Ozark Solar Park CUP is approved. And like I said, sir, there's a 30-day appeal process, okay? All right, thank you for attending. All right, now we'll move on to the land development hearing section. First item up is the Romine Minor Subdivision, and it is presented by Nick.
Y'all hear me?
We got you, Nick.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen here. Okay. Everybody see that?
We got it.
All right, there we go. Okay, this is the James Romine Minor Subdivision. It's located in the southeastern portion of the county down there. The project parcel is located on the north side of Brentwood Mountain Road, Washington County 39, just off of Highway 71. As you can see here, the entire property lies within flood hazard zone A. It's right next to a creek there. I believe that's London Creek. Here's the site plan from Blue & Associates. The applicant is requesting a minor subdivision in order to split his 3.122 acre tract into two smaller tracts, 2.058 acres to the west and 1.064 acres to the east. Here's a more detailed look at it. This is being handled, well, I guess it can't be handled administratively due to the small size of the lots being created, since they're both under 5 acres. All right, a site visit was conducted on October the 9th, 2020. This is looking at tract 1, looking in the northwest, looking to the northwest. Here's an image looking east down the front of tract 2. And this is from the narrow end of tract 2, looking back to the west. Planning staff has reviewed the submitted plans and recommends approval of the James Romine preliminary and final minor subdivision with conditions. The conditions have not changed since the time of the staff report. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Is the applicant or anyone from Blue and Associates here that would like to speak?
I don't see any hands up.
All right. Anybody from the public that would like to speak, Nathan?
Yeah, and there's no hands.
None?
No, sir.
All right, then it's back to the board. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Motion to approve. Second?
Second.
Someone? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, Romine minor subdivision is approved. Next item up for the board is minor subdivision replat, tract A Flint subdivision, presented by Nick as well.
All right, let me get my screen back in order. Well, there we go. Okay. This is the minor subdivision replat of tract A in Flint subdivision. The project site is located in the central portion of the county, out west of Farmington. The project parcel is located on the southwestern side of a bend in Viney Grove Road, Washington County Road 37. Here's a closer look at the property, where the property lies in proximity to Viney Grove. The applicant has proposed to split this 4.108 acre subdivision lot into 2 new pieces. The northern tract 1 is at, it's going to sit at 1.151 acres, and the southern tract 2 at 2.957 acres. The purpose of the split, according to the applicant, is to sell proposed tract 1, the northern tract there, to a family member and to retain tract 2 for themselves. Here's a closer, more detailed look at each new lot and the access points to each lot. Neither proposed lot has, I guess, ample road frontage onto Viney Grove Road, but they both have access via 2 separate easements. Both easements meet the width requirements according to the code, but the northern easement is only listed as a driveway easement, which doesn't meet planning staff's requirements. One of the conditions on this project is that the northern easement be listed as a 30-foot utility and access easement, as opposed to just a 30-foot driveway easement. A site visit was conducted on October 9th, 2020. This is an overlook of tract 2, looking southwest. Here's an image of tract 1 looking to the northwest. And this is an image of the 30-foot driveway easement from the north that will be used primarily for access for both tracts. Here's a site distance looking left from the driveway easement and looking right. Planning staff has reviewed the submitted plans and recommends preliminary and final approval of the minor subdivision replat of tract A Flint subdivision with conditions. The conditions have not changed since the time of the staff report. Is there any questions?
Anybody on the board got any questions? Is the applicant or Blue and Associates here and like to speak? Bob, you wanted to speak?
No.
Picture can. Okay. Cindy, is the applicant or anybody with Blue and Associates want to speak?
I don't see any
All right,
hands.
Nick. All right, Nathan, anybody from the public with a hand up?
Yeah, no hands.
All right, then it's back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Tract A Flint minor subdivision replat as presented.
Got a motion? And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minor subdivision replat Tract A Flint subdivision is approved. Next item up is Hardwood preliminary subdivision and presented by Nick as well.
All right. Okay. Here we go. This is the Hardwood Road preliminary subdivision. The project is located in the northeastern corner of the county. The project parcel is located about a quarter mile south of Highway 412 there. Here's the site of the project. It is located on the west side of Hardwood Road, Washington County 381. Here's the site plan from ESI showing the proposed 14-lot subdivision. The subdivision will use a gross total area of about 20 acres, and each lot will access from the proposed new subdivision road that will run through the center of this development. To date, planning staff has not received any information on the location of septic systems within the development or the fire flow calculation. Here's a detail of the road that is to be built. Since the development is to be more than 10 lots, the road will be considered a public road and should be built to county road standards. According to a technical comment received yesterday, November the 4th, 2020, from Gary Hull, I believe he's the fire chief out at Nob Hill Fire Department. The Hardwood subdivision needs to have 26-foot wide roads with a 96-foot cul-de-sac. According to the submitted plans from ESI, the proposed road will be 26-foot wide with 4-foot gravel shoulders, and the submittal has an 80-foot wide cul-de-sac. A site visit for this project was conducted on October 14th, 2020. This is an image of the location of the new development looking west. The proposed road will run to the left of the photographed utility pole you can see on your screen. Here is this is the approximate site distance of where the proposed road will intersect with Hardwood Road, Washington County 381. This is looking left towards Highway 412. And this is looking right. This map shows the 300-foot radius around the parent parcel for this project, of which the neighbors were notified. To date, planning staff has received comments from 2 of the notified neighbors that were in opposition to this project. Concerns that were mentioned from these comments include compatibility with the surrounding agricultural and low-density residential use, potential decrease in property value, the quality of the homes that will be built, whether or not covenants will be put into place for the subdivision, and the potential drainage into the nearby natural creek, I believe to the south. Upon the first round of technical review, our county contracted engineer noted numerous issues concerning drainage of stormwater flowing off of the proposed development. Our engineer pointed out the lack of detention for stormwater, the lack of some easements to protect natural drainage paths, the depth of the ditches throughout the subdivision not being deep enough, and the potential pooling of the water near Hardwood Road. Upon the response of the applicant's engineers from ESI. Most of these issues were addressed and mitigated. The large increase in flow of runoff to the south was due to an error in ESI's hydrology model. However, after review of ESI's first response, our county contracted engineer is still calling for detention of some sort to mitigate the flow increase during a peak flow situation. Other than the detention issue, the rest of the concerns are surrounding spots that the county engineers suggest drainage easements be placed so that development cannot inhibit the flow of stormwater off of the property. Planning staff has reviewed the submitted plans and considers this to be an incomplete submittal. Therefore, planning staff will withhold a recommendation at this time. Conditions of approval have been put in place for the consideration of the members of the planning board. The conditions have changed since the time of the staff report. We've added a condition that reflects the local fire chief's requirements for the road construction, as you can see there in red. And there's the standard conditions. Any questions?
Hey, Nick, I'm assuming that 96 is because that's one entry in order to be able for anything happens, fire truck can turn around. Is that why versus the 80?
I imagine so.
96 is standard.
Yeah, I think that standard is
Okay.
according to the state fire code.
Okay. Any response from the applicant in reference to why they want it reduced to 80?
I hadn't heard any response from the applicant.
Okay. Anybody else on the board have any questions? All right. Is the applicant or anybody from Engineering Services Inc. here to speak?
Yes, sir. Jason Apple, and I will put him on the line. Just a moment.
Thank you. This is Jason Apple with ESI. Can everybody hear me?
We got you, Jason.
Okay, first I'd like to address the cul-de-sac diameter. We have no issue modifying that to the 96 required by fire. I received that comment today, and we'll get that updated with the final plan. The drainage easements, received those comments yesterday from Zach, and we'll make the drainage paths through the subdivision as needed, and we'll put those drainage easements in. We did not have a chance to get those back to staff for today's meeting, but they will be addressed to satisfy his concerns.
Okay.
And I'll try to answer any other questions.
Anybody on the board have any questions for Jason? Yeah, go ahead. Randy.
Yeah, I may have misunderstood, but I thought they said that they were still insistent on on-site retention.
We have a slight increase in the 100-year of 3 CFS, and I believe we can mitigate that either with a very small detention area or just a slight adjustment. And we do have acre and a quarter lots, and we can find a small area for a small detention area.
Any other questions from the board? All right, Nathan, I think I saw some hands popped up from the public. We'll take it to the public comment.
Yes, sir. Just a moment. Got Carol Ratcliffe. Go ahead, Carol.
Actually, it's David and Carol Ratcliffe. May I share my screen for just a moment?
Just a moment. I'll get you set. Go ahead.
Can you see that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Well, I tell you what, let me minimize this. Let me try to, how about that? Can you see that?
See your
We
video.
can see y'all.
How about that?
There it goes.
Yeah, there it is.
There we go.
I think each of you received a letter that my wife and I sent last week. And what I was trying to show is the letter that has signatures of the surrounding neighbors. This is where the X is where the proposed development is. And these are the Holmesleys, Toddy, Bowen, Sizemores. This is my wife and I, the Dodds and the Grants. And by the way, the Grants are with me, and I'm sure they'll want just a few minutes to speak as well. But each of these members that are outlined here are all significantly against this development and have signed that letter that I sent to you all. I'll just kind of give you my 2 cents, and that is this really has several areas of concern. One certainly is the density. If you look at the homes, as was mentioned, these are 1 to 1.4 acre lots and 20 acres. There's 14 different lots that are being developed. And that gives a home density of about 0.7 homes per acre. If you look at the surrounding area of approximately 700 acres, the density is about 42 acres per home. The bottom line is this is significantly out of place with regards to the entire area around it. Each of us have these homes and these properties because we wanted rural living. We did not want a high density development to be abutting where we live. You've mentioned other developments this evening that have a tree barrier. There, as you can see, there is no tree barrier here. Each of us now, which truly enjoy the style and lifestyle that we have, will now look at our front door and see 14 homes across the street. And that's just from an aesthetic perspective. Beyond that, you're proposing 14 septic systems within this area. Others may speak to this tonight that want to speak, but there is agricultural land around this that use freshwater springs that are in direct contact with this property. We've not seen any evidence that there's been any perk tests done on this property, and we have significant concerns that effluent from 14 septic systems have the potential to contaminate the freshwater supply in the area around this. I think that's pretty much the major issue. It was also mentioned that we would expect that our land values will be decreased because, you know, we have a 3,500 square foot home here. The Suttons, I believe, have a larger home than that. We all have property that surround us, that we enjoy our space and our view and enjoy our neighbors. And to now have 14 homes in such a high density when a stone's throw from our house will really just pretty much ruin the entire environment for us. Now, I'm going to go ahead and step away and let the Grants who are here with us, and the Grants are in this area here, we'll allow them to speak.
My name is Tim Grant, and we have the first home on the left, and my wife and I, Mary, recently moved here from Nevada, and we moved here for a reason. The density and the confusion and problems with in Nevada, we thought we were going to put behind us. And we moved here, we've been here a month, and all of a sudden this pops up. I just can't appreciate someone taking this beautiful acreage and chopping it up into 14 parcels. And my wife and I look forward to the outdoors, the beautiful surroundings, and the agricultural benefits that this property has for us. But if this project goes forward, it's going to be a sore eye for a lot of people in that area, and we are totally against it. And my wife would like to say a few words.
All right, thank you, Mr. Grant.
Hello, my name is Mary Grant. Like my husband said, we're from Northern Nevada, and this is devastating to us. We truly, we're hoping to get away from all this. it's happening in our area back at home. I'm third generation Nevada and never ever thought I'd see the day that I'd have to leave home. But California is swooping in and really taking advantage of it. And it's very disappointing. So when we got the phone call about this, I have to tell you, we were very disheartened by this. And we love the state. We love the beauty of it. And to have to tell all of our family and friends at home what's now happening here is very disappointing. I think a few of them already even know, and they're saying, oh my goodness, that's what you were running from. And I'm like, yeah, well, here we go again. So we hope you really consider this and look at where we're coming from on this. So thank you for your time.
If I may make one last comment, what I tried to show earlier was the signed letter that I had sent to you all. The Holmesley have signed it, the Toddies have signed it, Mr. Fanning, who's the POA for the Bowens, have signed it, the Dodds have signed it, and the Grants will be signing it. I will forward that to you all by email tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, sir. Nathan, do we have anybody else in the public that wants to speak?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Let me see what I can do. Like Nita Sutton. Go ahead.
Hello. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Great. My name's Nita Sutton. We are the neighbors directly south of the proposed subdivision. We have several concerns about this proposed subdivision. The first one is the drainage issues that were brought up earlier. We have a natural spring that's currently the only water source for our cattle. All the water for most of those 14 lots directly drain into that natural spring. So if there's any issues with any of the 14 proposed septic systems that are going in, or any toxic waste or just anything that might drain, that will go directly into our spring. We've engaged the Arkansas Game and Fish and Washington County Health Department to help us understand the impact that that's going to have on this spring. Because again, this is currently the only water source for cattle. That's our first concern. The second concern that we have is there is no natural barrier right now between the proposed subdivision and our home. We would have 7 of those 14 backyards directly in direct view of our property. There is currently no privacy fence, right? This is a rural area. We don't have a natural tree line. We don't have anything. So again, we would have at least 7 of those houses with direct view of our backyard. And then the third issue is, which I think Mr. Ratcliffe brought up, but subdivision is just not fitting for the area where everybody out here is anywhere from 5 to 50 acres. Putting 14 houses on 20 acres is just not fitting. Again, this would be right next to our 20-acre property. It's yes. So we're strongly opposed to this new development.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Sutton. Nathan, anyone else?
It's like we have Debbie Dodd.
All right.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay, thank you very much for letting me speak. I'm not directly connected with this property, but as you can see on David Ratcliffe's map, I am one parcel east of this property that we're talking about. We enjoy our property. We chose to stay in the rural community. I grew up in town. I know what these houses are next to each other. I don't want to be that close to people. I have bought some land, but I don't want to have to buy property just to keep my elbow space like some of the other people in this region have done. We have a lot of wildlife. We have a lot of deer go through. We enjoy it. That's why David Ratcliffe enjoys living out here. My thought, is the water situation out here. Just like Miss Sutton said, there's a spring-fed creek. I would like to see that the Beaver Lake watershed be brought into this to evaluate. Out in this area, there are a lot of creeks, underground creeks. And what would all these septic tanks do to that? The Green Cemetery has already been rejected because of this same issue. And I have another question I'd like to ask. Mr. Humbard is part of this LLC that owns this land that's wanting to develop it. Now, does that affect, will he relinquish his rights on this decision in the making?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Dodd. He understands conflict of interest.
Okay.
I mean, not as of making, but he understands the conflict of interest in whether or not to vote or not.
Well, we were told when the land sold, it was going to be into 4 5-acre plots. You know, we're fine with that. I don't think the Suttons and the Grants would object to that, or even David Ratcliffe. But I'm speaking for myself. Across the road from this proposed land is another 30 acres. And it's owned by an out-of-town person, and he's wanting to develop it into 3 5-acre plots or something.
3 10-acre.
3 10-acre plots. My concern is he's going to increase his volume on that place, and then we're going to have all the riffraff over on across the fence from us. We run cattle.
Ms. Dodd, I'm going to have to interrupt you. You're going to have to respectfully wrap it up. Your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, well, I appreciate the time, and we do have Carolyn Holmesley here if we can restart the clock. Thank you.
We will restart the clock. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Carolyn Holmesley. I own land 300 feet from where this is going to be. We have a hay field. We have cows. I don't think we need that many houses there. This is a farming community. I'm concerned with the water. I have an underground well, and we have a spring that feeds our cows, and it's going to run through our property. And I agree with everything everybody else has said. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Nathan, do we have anyone else?
I believe that's it, sir.
All right. The applicant or ESI have any response to anything that was said by the public? Jason's got his hand raised.
Yes, sir. I just want to note that we'll follow all state code with respect to the septic system approvals, and we'll follow all state guidelines with that respect.
Okay. No further comment from the public and from the applicant, then I take it back to the board.
They can get the state approved for that new septic. Look at Blue Springs Village.
Nathan, we need to mute Ms. Dodd.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there you go. All right, to the board.
It's been a while, Mr. Chairman, but I believe staff originally noted that they didn't have sufficient materials, that there were still some things missing. Am I correct in that? Or am I on the wrong one?
No, I believe that is the correct one, right, Nathan? Or Nick?
There was, well, Nick can go ahead and address that.
Yeah, we felt that we didn't have, we felt that the drainage requirements put in place by our county engineer weren't necessarily met. And yeah, we felt that it wasn't a complete submittal, especially considering the fact that we haven't received anything regarding septic tanks, the location of them. And yeah, so yeah, we feel that we would consider it incomplete. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I realize it's just the CUP and we would do the development plan later, but that would be included, I suppose.
I believe this one is preliminary plat, sir.
Yeah, I mean,
it is.
preliminary plat, yeah.
Yeah, no CUP for this. All the lots were greater than an acre.
Yeah, before finals, what I meant. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Correct. There was lack of detention, lack of drainage easements, lack of utility easements, and that was about it. We could definitely make them conditions of approval, but whenever they stack up like that, we tend to lean towards giving the applicant a little more time. But whatever the pleasure of the board.
Anything from the board? I'm assuming with a no response and a no motion, Nathan, that the next step is to table?
There's no motion in the either direction, then I believe that'd be the one that was left.
Mr. Chairman, I move we table this till we get a little more information, please. I think what was it, hardware subdivision or hardwood or something?
Hardwood.
Okay.
All right, I got a motion to table the hardwood preliminary subdivision. Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hardwood preliminary subdivision has been tabled. All right, next section goes back to conditional use permit hearing. So before we move on, let me state that, over the last few months, there has been some meetings that have been held, both neighborhood and so forth. I know there's some concern by some people that are on for the next two items on the agenda. So before I pass over the reins for these final two, before we get to the end of the meeting, I'll pass those over to Commissioner Randy Laney. But I do want to state that on the record that I myself, with my conflict of interest on these final two, have not reached out or tried to influence any member on this board one way or the other for a particular vote. So with that being said, Randy, I'll pass it off to you.
Okay. I want to thank those who have submitted prepared input. It was very helpful. I think we had a very lengthy full hearing that helped us outline it. So it was deferred till we come up with some other answers. So you have any other comments?
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't know if he was talking to me or not.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
For these two projects, I would like for you to entertain a motion to set aside the rules for this one, since we've heard a lot of the input concerning problems previously. And I would like to move that we allow the proponent to have up to 30 minutes to answer any questions or address concerns, and also to allow the public up to 30 minutes to voice their concerns and give us their input, since we've heard it before. Also, we could still stay with the 3 minutes per person, our regular rules. And then if a representative wants to represent the group, then of course we'll give them up to 10 minutes to speak. But I would like to make that motion, please.
Okay, there's a motion to suspend the rules to conduct a public hearing and have a 30-30, much like the quorum court does when they hear these appeals. Is there a second to that motion? So Mike Q, is that you, Neil? Nope.
Yes, I'll second it.
I saw the Q come up on the screen. I have a motion and a second that we conduct the hearing with 30 minutes for those who like to speak from the community, and then 30 minutes for the proponents to summarize how they propose to meet those. Maintaining, if you're a representative, which I would start with that group, you would have 10 minutes. Individuals would have 3. So that's the motion, and there's a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we will proceed with that. So somebody's going to have to help me with the time keeping once we get to that session. But Nathan, are you presenting the staff report?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. The Hunt Rogers Quarry Expansion Conditional Use Permit request is located in the northeast portion of the county, adjacent to the existing Hunt Rogers Springdale Quarry. The requested expansion area is on company-owned property adjacent to the east side of the existing quarry in Beaver Lake. Here you can see it is adjacent to Beaver Lake and multiple residential developments. In this image, you can see the existing quarry takes access from Parsons Road, Washington County Road 91. And this site plan submitted by the project engineer shows the location of the existing quarry in relation to the proposed 150-acre expansion area. This proposal has been revised since last January by removing both of the areas that were to be redesignated from stockpiling to mining on the north of the pit, as well as the addition of 34.5 acres to the south of the pit for spoil storage and stockpiling. Now the plan calls for the addition of approximately 150 acres of additional mining area to the north and east of the existing pit, and roughly 29 acres of stockpiling room along North Parsons Road. So as I am indicating with my pointer right here, this is the expansion area, and this is the proposed stockpile area over here along the road. This is the site plan with the green area indicating the ADEQ permit area, and the yellow area indicating the proposed quarry expansion area. The applicant is in discussions with the Beaver Water District regarding dedicating a permanent conservation easement that would extend along the applicant's property between the quarry and the lake. The intent of conservation easements is to protect the land from future development, therefore protecting water quality, wildlife, etc. Details and locations of the conservation easement haven't been finalized yet, but planning staff recommends the locations shown here in blue, here and here. Additionally, planning staff recommends the conservation easement extend to the north to act as a natural barrier between the quarry and Hunt's Lakeside Estates subdivision, shown here in purple. Here's the expansion area. Here's Hunt's Lakeside Estates subdivision. Also, staff is recommending the conservation easement extend up into this area as well. Let's see. After several years, these conservation easements have the potential to grow tree canopy and understory vegetation that could help provide visual, audible, and dust mitigation. 205 neighbor notification packets went out to all property owners for the 292 properties within 1/2 mile from the existing and proposed subject parcels, including some properties in Benton County. Planning staff has received 128 opposed comments via phone, mail, and email, and received 1 comment in favor. This map illustrates where the comments are coming from. All the shaded properties received a neighbor notification packet, while the properties shaded in red were opposed. Green represents the subject properties. The opposed comments were regarding many aspects of compatibility, such as property value decline, the lifetime of the quarry, environmental concerns regarding the lake, wildlife, drinking water, noise, dust, increased traffic, damage to personal property due to blasting, air pollution, health risks, hours of operation, and dump trucks obeying speed limits and driving dangerously. This excerpt from Washington County's future land use plan indicates this area as general commercial, shown here in red, and heavy industrial, shown here with blue stripes. Pursuant to Washington County zoning ordinance, section 11-200, the criteria for allowance of conditional uses, the following criteria must be met to approve the conditional use permit. The objective items numbered 1 through 3, that the applicant and fees have been submitted, that the neighbors have been notified of this hearing, and that adequate utilities, roads, drainage, and other public services are or can be made available. All these 3 criteria have been satisfied. The following are the subjective criteria: that the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area, that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the conditional use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare, that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the surrounding area for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish and impair property values within the surrounding area. Number 7, the establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding area for the uses permitted in the zone. And then lastly, bottom letter B, which states the planning board may impose additional conditions on this CUP request. And the following are conditions that I wrote into the project staff report, but there are several additional conditions that have been added since the time of the staff report, and I'll go over the additional conditions right now. And these additional conditions are coming, they're formulated based on a letter that I received from Mrs. Hunt, also letters from neighbors, and letters from Judge Barry Mooring from Benton County. And I'll just read through the conditions real quickly for the record. Include the legal description with bearings and distances of the existing permitted quarry site, the expansion area, and the combined overall quarry area to be permitted on the site plan. So I'd like for the legal descriptions to be beefed up a little bit. Plans must all reflect the same intent. Boundaries and acreages shown on the site plan drawing and the legal descriptions shall all match with no discrepancies. Communicate with the public how to obtain blast notification emails prior to blasts and provide public notification of those blasts 24 hours prior. Implement an effective wheel washing system and require its use by all loaded trucks leaving the quarry. Continually evaluate noise levels and implement noise reducing measures. Ensure dust levels remain within the criteria for the applicable regulations. Shield and/or orientate all on-site lighting such that it does not cause distraction to drivers and disturbance to the surrounding community. Adjust hours of operations to a schedule that is mutually agreeable between the quarry and the surrounding community. Work with the county to fund a regular patch and repair cycle on the surrounding roads. Consult with Beaver Water District and Northwest Arkansas Land Trust and establish a conservation easement of an appropriate size between the quarry and the expansion area and Beaver Lake and the Hunts Lakeside Estates subdivision. High Lonesome Road, Washington County 4589. There's actually a county road that goes through the middle of the expansion area. Washington County Road 4589 must be completely vacated from the point it begins at Ponderosa Road, which is Washington County Road 584. And you can contact the road department for assistance in vacating the roads. construct and maintain berms and evergreen vegetative screening sufficient to minimize the impact to the surrounding neighborhoods. And lastly, neighborhood committee shall continue to meet over the lifetime of the quarry. And I will remind you that that on the last slide, letter B states that planning board may impose additional comments or additional conditions at the board. You can also edit or remove any conditions. These additional conditions you haven't seen yet, and I just wanted to point out that these are just proposed, and you can edit, modify, remove any of these conditions at your pleasure. And so on with all that, and with much opposition based on compatibility, planning staff withholds recommendation for this quarry expansion project. However, staff does put forth several conditions of approval for your consideration, and I'll take any questions you have for me.
I think it'd be helpful if you'd leave that slide up. G, I think it was, so we could.
This one?
Familiarize, yeah, good.
Sure.
Questions of the board, these proposals or anything else prior to opening up to public input?
Somebody else is going to have to drive.
Yeah, okay, hearing none. Oh, does that mess you up driving?
Well,
sorry.
Trying to pay attention a little bit different.
So with that, I would remind, I don't know how many people are listening into us right now, but again, thank you for all your prepared input. I can speak only for myself. It was very informative and very helpful. I would open up for public comment from those who are from the public to speak to it. Again, if you're representing, I think we had a justice of the peace that from the area that would be a good example of somebody who represents an area. I'll take that first. So if you are representing a group, you would have 10 minutes to speak of the 30 minutes allocated. And I would ask you to raise your hands now. And if you're not a representative of a group, please don't raise your hand at this point. Raise it in just a minute. So I'll give you a chance to adjust to that to see how many of you are actually representing groups.
I can see Andrew Effinger. He is I believe he's the staff attorney over there at Hunt Rogers Group. And
okay, is there anything that needs to be clarified from staff? Can we wait till we've had public input, or I guess I can ask him. Andrew, is there anything that needs to be clarified on what we were presented, or can we go ahead and get some comment and then come back to you all? You get the last 30 minutes.
Okay, I was under the understanding that the applicant would go before the public comment.
Yeah, no, I think you want to have a chance to hear what everybody has to say.
Okay, okay.
Thank you
I guess
for that.
one question clarifying is that working with the county to fund a regular patch and repair cycle. Could somebody clarify what the expectation is on our side for that?
As far as I'm concerned, that came from one of the letters, I believe from the letter that I got from Mrs. Hunt, and that would be negotiated between your group and our road department. And so I don't have a cost share percentage or anything like that, nor am I recommending anything like that. I'm just saying that that I believe that subject should be discussed with the road department.
Understood. Understood.
Okay, with that, timekeeper, we'll start public input. And if you're representing a group from the public, please raise your hand now. We'll wait for a minute to see if we see that. Okay. I don't think there are any, so we will entertain individuals. Again, we ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes because you are taking away from somebody else's opportunity to speak. So Nathan, go ahead, please.
Mr. Chair, here's Colleen Gaston from the Beaver Water District.
Can you hear us, Colleen?
Thank you, Nathan, and members of the planning board. My name is Colleen Gaston, and I'll ask real quickly, can you hear me before I go further?
Yes.
Yes.
So thank you again, and we also want to give our appreciation to Mrs. John L. Hunt and the folks who work with her at JB Hunt Ventures. Beaver Water District has been in communication with them recently about a potential conservation easement, which is number 10 on the list of conditions that Nathan has presented. Before I go any further, I would like to check to see, did all the members of the planning board receive the letter from Beaver Water District's Chief Executive Officer that was emailed to you this morning? And Nathan, I assume you.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so I won't go into detail other than to say that we included 2 conditions in our letter as well that we would like included in any approval. And the first one is to include a specific condition that requires the granting to a qualified land trust of a conservation easement of a scope and with terms mutually agreeable to Beaver Water District and JB Hunt LLC and the landowner. And so we believe that that's basically what's covered by number 10. We also included a request that the planning board require that the boundaries be clarified, and that Nathan has also picked up on in items 1 and 2. The thing that I would add to that is number 1, that not only do they need to be clarified, but we would appreciate if just for our understanding of what the proposal was and what is potentially going to be approved, that it be limited to the 150 acres or approximately 150 acres of mining area and approximately 29 acres of stockpiling room that Nathan mentioned as being in the application, that those acreages and legal descriptions match. And with that, I will leave it to see if anyone has any questions that I might answer on behalf of Beaver Water District. And again, we thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions? Don't want to take up the public's time too much. Thank you very much. Nathan,
Thank you.
Do we have another hand from the public?
Mr. Chair, I've got James Crouch.
Go ahead, James.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is James Crouch. I'm an attorney in Springdale. I represent the Matthews family who own property adjacent to the Hunt property. I want to touch first on the last meeting. I think you'll recall that and Mr. Nathan Crouch mentioned that the original application was for 35 acres of mining and 34.4 acres of spoilage. And I think it was agreed that that 35 acres of mining had a lifetime for the quarry of 50 years or so. You also recall that the
clarification there, Mr. Crouch.
Pardon?
I apologize for interrupting, but point of clarification, it was 150 plus the 35, which was fragmented and detached from the overall 150 body. So there was definitely 150 acres proposed to begin with.
A long time. Yep.
Yeah. At any rate, as I understand it, that and perhaps it's not changed that much, but as I understand the current application, it's for 150 acres of quarrying. So you recall that this was tabled because there was concern with the commission that 50 years was a long time. You wouldn't have any control over it. They were asked to come back. The applicant was asked to come back with an application that phased it in. And to my knowledge, they didn't do that. They came back with an application to quarry 150 acres, which by my calculations is 4 1/3 times bigger than the 35 acres they asked for before. And again, if I have it wrong, I'll stand corrected. But the point still stands that you would relinquish a lot of control for a quarry that could last many, many years, vastly longer than 50 years. And I suspect the strategy for that was to say, well, let's ask for more and maybe we'll get the 34 acres, 35 acres we asked for originally. I'm shocked at this. And I think that that the commission should be shocked as well. I would also like to talk about the staff's recommendation or approval of this application. They have deemed that it was not going to impact the surrounding area. Well, if it's bigger than it was before, it has to impact the area. That would be like saying, well, you've got a little mom and pop grocery store, which people come and go to and buy groceries. Therefore, you should be able to put a super center on the property. That logic just doesn't hold. I think there's no question that it could impact and will impact the rest of the neighborhood that's already existing there. I won't talk too much about environmental, except that I don't know that your packets, if they contain what I found on the website, contain the opposition of the Beaver Watershed Alliance, which opposed this as well. In fact, Beaver Water District opposed the original application. I'm not sure why in fact, they deemed that it would be something that would pollute the lake. I'm not sure why they have changed that position. The other thing that I would mention is this, and I don't know if this is known to the commission or not, but Rogers Group has another quarry that's dormant on Highway 265. It's between US Highway 71 Business and Hickory Creek. I would guess that as the crow flies, it's probably 5 to 8 miles from this quarry. It's dormant. It's not being used. At least it wasn't when I met with a representative of Rogers back in January. And they chose instead to expand this quarry. I just think you keep that in mind when deciding whether this is appropriate for the community and for the neighborhood. One last point. I do appreciate the fact that the staff has suggested additional conditions. I don't think they're particularly strict, and they could be tightened up a bit. But I would also say this, and I wasn't aware of these additional conditions until just now, but my recollection is that the quarry application that was approved in 2012 also had conditional use restrictions, and really they haven't been followed. In particular, as I recall, there was supposed to be a berm maintained with vegetation on it, with trees, and they're basically non-existent. So I just think you can keep that in mind in deciding whether these people have been good neighbors and whether you should let them expand this as much as they want to. I would ask that you deny the CUP application. Thank you.
Thank you. I would remind people to do your best to stay within 3 minutes so other people have a chance to speak. Go ahead, Nathan.
I don't have anything to say, sir.
No, I thought you meant hands up. Is what I meant.
Let's see. We've got Brian McDuffie is next.
Okay. Brian, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate giving us another second opportunity to sort of share our thoughts and what we see going on. I'll try and be quick and not cover anything I covered in the last meeting back in January. But I would like to ask you if you would try and recollect the last 30 minutes of that board meeting. And in that meeting, during the last 30 minutes, there was principally two topics, but about 90% of the discussion was within all the board members, providing guidance, direction, and coaching to the Hunt Rogers team about coming back with a time-phased implementation. There's at least 20 minutes time was spent on that. And so far, I haven't seen anything on a time-phased implementation. In fact, one of the board members said it should probably be in 2-year increments. So that's the board's words, not my words, but just haven't seen anything there. And really, why is that? Are the board's opinions and recommendations irrelevant? Is it just unimportant? Are they just indifferent? And I guess my neighbors I'd be curious to hear how that will affect, you're giving them specific guidance and how they're not following it will affect your approving this project. Secondly, and I'll try and be quick, this is pretty emotional for me, but y'all really talked a lot about soft skills of the Hunt team or the Hunt Rogers team, and asked them to put together a neighborhood committee. And I was fortunate enough to be invited to be on that, and I appreciate that. But I want to share probably the most bizarre experience I can think of in my adult life. At the first meeting, just a few weeks back, every single committee member from the neighborhood showed up with a mask on. Without exception, we all walked in with a mask. Most had glasses and eye covering. Not a single Hunt Rogers person, leader, manager, speaker, had a mask on. They came in, commingled in the group, knowing that we all had masks on, and still didn't have masks on. And what should I think about somebody how much somebody cares about me who wouldn't wear a mask? Or how should I think about somebody who can't listen to the governor? I mean, the governor's instructions are pretty darn clear on handling COVID situations in public meetings. So, I mean, if they can't follow the governor, are they going to follow you? I appreciate your time, and you have a good evening.
Thanks, Mr. McDuffie. Give us a second here to Nathan. Who have you got?
Nanette Carpenter.
Ms. Carpenter,
Hi,
are you here?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking my call. I am a homeowner out here in this subdivision. And we moved out here from Texas, and we were looking for country living. And we found this beautiful, quiet area where we enjoy sitting in our patio, listening to the birds and watching the wildlife. And we do hear the quarry right now, the quarry. We hear blasts. Our house actually shakes when those blasts are done. And I know there was some mention about notifying us when blasts are going to happen, but what exactly is that going to do? You notify, they notify us when they're going to blast. And what are we going to do? There's nothing to prevent our house from shaking. And so that affects the quiet. And this quarry is not as close as is being suggested. So I am really, really concerned about the amount of noise that we're going to have, the blasting. We hear the grinding of the rocks, and also worried about the diminishing values of our home. I mean, this quarry is going to be within half a mile from our home. You think about that. The noise, the traffic, we already have just a tremendous amount of trucks just coming and going on this little windy little road that we have. I cannot even imagine adding that many more acres and that many more trucks in this very, very small little road. And so I just want to leave you with something to ponder. You put yourself in our shoes. Do you want to sit outside your patio and listen to the grinding and the blasting of a quarry and look out your window and see just machines and our beautiful countryside being torn up? I mean, that's really what you guys are deciding on. And that's going to be our view. There's no amount of barrier and trees that you can plant that will grow, that will cover that noise and the pollution that will create. So I would just really, really would ask that you reconsider that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. We have Nathan.
Yes, sir, just a sec.
Thank you.
Next we have our JP Patrick Deacon.
Okay. Mr. Deacon.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you guys first for your service and putting the time into this. I know it's
It's been a long process, but I think it's extremely important to the people out here. And I just want to say that, I think if you guys are like me, we go through these planning processes and we have to beg people to be good neighbors, because I think that's the hope we have to put into these situations. And I think if we are honest with ourselves and we look back over the history of this Hunt Rogers Quarry, they have been very poor neighbors. And that's the way I would classify it. And the reality is that the quarry already impacts these neighbors so broadly and so effectually, it can hardly even be minimized. And of course, the expansion is going to only impact the neighbors more. I would say, though, that there is a process that started, and I do appreciate that. There are communication lines that have been opened up between the entity and the neighbors. And, the mine has even made some minimal improvements over the last few weeks and months. And I would say that while those are minimal, they've had 7 years to do some of these minimal improvements to be good neighbors. And I would like for us all to think about why they're doing that. And it's because they have to come and be part of this process and answer to the neighbors and answer to the county leadership and plan out what they're going to do. I think this expansion and its size are just would put us outside of that process. We would lose this process that's been fostered for probably all of our lifetimes if the expansion is approved to this magnitude. So I would ask us all, we know from the quarry's own admission and their current footprint, they have years of mining currently, even without considering the expansion they have on the table now. So what I ask us to do is to continue to evaluate the phased planning and approval process, because it would continue to foster the mine coming to the neighbors and being part of the process and being compliant with what's put before them. Also, I would like for the planning recommendations. I think that's a great start too. And I would like for those to be more formalized. I'd like to see those put a little bit more specifics on those. And the conservation easement, I had not heard that before tonight, but that's a great idea. And I'd like to see that be more formalized. So I would like for us to continue to work on this. And I'm against this expansion as it lies now and its sheer size. I appreciate all of you guys' service, and I would request that you guys deny this and let's look at a phased expansion approval process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nathan?
Looks like we have Greg Goff.
Mr. Goff, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Goff, you'll have to unmute your microphone.
There you go.
Okay. Hey guys, I really appreciate the time tonight and taking my comments on this. I think there's been some great comments made so far. I would echo Patrick's recent comments, plus Brian's comments, plus James Crouch's comments on a phased approach. What we left the meeting with last time was this expectation that a phased approach would be brought to us or to you guys to consider. And unfortunately, that has not seen anything in reality like that. So just to speak very directly to impact on property. So I'm unique because I love this area and just built a $650,000 house right next door to where I lived. And I can tell you that the property that I sold for about $20,000 to $40,000 less than the market price that would currently be expected. So as in regards to property devaluation, absolutely, even with where they are right now and this conversation going on, my property has been adversely affected. And I would expect that to continue going forward. I looked through all of the conditions that you had up on the screen earlier, and one of them really struck me, which was number 8. And if you go back to number 8, it says something about working with the community to decide what working hours would be for the quarry. And I can tell you every single meeting that I've been to, and I've attended, I believe, every one of them, but every single one and the most current ones basically have said, we're going to operate when the demand is there. We don't care. So what, and that's unacceptable. I mean, there should be some time, some downtime every single night. I mean, people have children here that are trying to go to sleep, and then you have all of this noise coming in. So I would ask that we revisit that, and on all of those things that was mentioned earlier, I believe the last time this was approved, those conditions were there and nobody ever followed up on them. So there has to be some measurable accountability against all of those. And the last thing I'll end with is that, the green zone, we need to define what that is. We need to have a budget for planting trees on the green zone that buffers our property. So I live on Friendship View Drive. So that is a very much concern to me. And I appreciate the time, and I thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. Just making some notes here.
Kathy.
Hey, Nathan, we've got about 8 minutes left, so.
Yes, sir. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say that we'd been asking the quarry for environmental information on it, and they always say that they're doing it. And then last week I asked them again, and they said it's already at the ADEQ. And I just asked that you see if it's updated within the last 6 months since they proposed the expansion, to see what type of environmental impact we're going to have, just because the trees and the dust that's coming over here. And I know that they're within their air quality portion of it, and they say their air quality is good. And the last parting words I'm going to be of my granddaughter, my 6-year-old granddaughter, who says, Nana, why do you have powdered sugar on your leaves and your flowers? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry, when you speak, next person, please state your name where we can have it for the record. But thank you. I see it on the screen now, Kathy Janice. That's good. Thank you.
Next, we have Alex Goff.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yep. Hi,
Great. Thank you so much for taking my comments. I would like to echo everybody else that has gone before me, especially the part about having a phased expansion proposal, which we have not seen. And that has not been discussed in any of the community meetings we've had with the quarry either. And I do have to say, I appreciate the quarry stepping out and extending a bit of an olive branch and addressing our concerns more directly than they have in any time in the past. However, I feel as though some of this is a thank you or an asking for permission very kindly, and then it's going to continue going the route that it was before, right? So they're on their best behavior right now. That's how I kind of perceive that. One thing I want to discuss with y'all is they showed us some statistics at our committee meeting, which I'm sure that you have seen as well. One in particular that I was concerned about was the noise level study that they did. And it shows that their noise level is significantly under the value where it needs to be by regulations. However, I asked them when the study was performed, and that was in the spring when we had full foliage. I would like to see additional measures be taken place so that their recording and measurements will continue even when the foliage falls and it's in the middle of winter with cloud cover, different conditions like that. So we can really get an accurate measure of exactly what is their impact throughout the year, not just during the best conducive time periods for them to conduct a study. I also want to mention during our committee meetings, I also asked about quiet hours during the night. This is very important. They are running sometimes all night long. And when I asked about that, they said they didn't work on Sundays. And so that we were expected to essentially deal with the noise and the lights at night. And there were no plans in the works for kind of creating anything like that. And so I really would appreciate having that proposed expansion, as well as some firmed up language as to how exactly they are supposed to meet the demands or the concerns of the community in a mutually beneficial arrangement when the response thus far has been business is business. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So we got one more, Nathan.
I don't see any more.
Okay. All right, thank you. And would any questions of, I guess board's always got opportunity to speak, but if you don't have anything burning, I will go to the applicant, and they had a chance to hear the concerns and the ones that have been written and all the letters, and I'm sure they've got a response to that. So we'll begin that period now at 7:07. So who am I recognizing?
Here's Andrew.
Andrew, thank you for waiting. Go ahead.
Hello, and thank you, board members. Nathan, is there a way I can share my screen here?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
While I'm working on that,
you should be able to now.
Andrew, you're muted for some reason.
Oh, no.
There you go.
Am I unmuted now?
You are.
All right, well, let me start over. The condition on the clearing up of the legal descriptions, Nathan, I think you understand this after an explanation from Jeffrey Bates, but he had somehow described all of the parcels that were impacted at all, and that came up with a 500 acre number. Our legal description is on the second page of the plans. We'll definitely get that cleaned up. So start my video. Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Effinger, the Assistant General Counsel here at Rogers Group. We're the managing member of Hunt Rogers Materials. And hopefully you can see my slideshow now. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you see the slideshow?
Yes.
All right. Let's go on. I hope I can address all of the concerns. Some of the neighbors that just spoke have been to a bunch of the meetings that we've had. They've participated well. We've had a lot of participation from several people who didn't speak tonight. One thing I would like to clarify as well is I was at the in-person meetings down there. I presented in front of a crowd. I asked nicely at a distance of about 15 feet to take my mask off. I saw people with masks on, so I just wanted to rebut that contention that we were walking around the shop without masks on. With that said, let me get started here. What I'm going to walk through here real quick is a simple explanation of the existing site. Then I'm going to do a short video tour. It's only 2 minutes long. Please bear with me. It'll kind of give you an idea of what goes on at our site so that we can talk about the distinct activities on the site once it's over. I'm going to explain the expansion, especially compared to our existing conditional use permit, and kind of explain the history behind that. We're going to talk about the impacts. You've got a report from your planning folks. It's going to match up with that quite a bit. And then we're going to talk about the neighbor relations that we went through after leaving the last meeting with instructions to have some better relations with our neighbors, and we agree that that was an area we needed to strengthen. And then I'm going to close with our commitments that are going to look a lot like some of the conditions, and I think there may be a couple that aren't on there yet. With that said, you guys probably read this in the report. The existing site opened up in 2003. It was opened up by Johnny Hunt, known as JB Hunt. It was operated under the name West Arkansas Quarries. One piece of important history here is that after they began operating in 2003, zoning laws were passed to apply zoning to this area. So when the Rogers Group started having conversations with Northwest Arkansas Quarries about creating a joint venture, we needed to make sure that we were in compliance on this site. So in 2012, the conditional use process that was gone through was an effort to get in compliance, to clarify with the county the implications of the 2006 zoning ordinance that had changed the ballgame in this neck of the woods. And so that's what the results of the 2012 conditional use permit were. There were several neighbors who thought that in 2012, we had requested the mine to last for 50 years back then. And that's not what that effort was. That effort was simply to get in compliance with the current zoning laws. And then in 2013, it was incorporated into the Hunt Rogers joint venture. So here's the short video I promised you, just kind of explaining in a visual format what goes on at our site. Sorry about that. Appreciate your patience. What you're looking at now here is an overlay of that 2012 conditional use permit that I talked about shortly before, that Nathan had talked about before as well. You can see that because of the compliance effort that we talked about, there were limitations placed on where mining can occur and where stockpiling can occur. And just so you know what you're looking at, the underlying aerial photo here is from the 2012 era. So as you can see, there was basically a line drawn around the existing pit. And the existing pit was granted to the north and to the east outside of the original 120 acres that was the quarry in 2003. This is that same slide with our additional areas added that we are requesting. One point of confusion that has come up in some of these meetings, and it came up in the prior comments by one of the neighbors here, was our agreement in 2012 to create a berm. If you guys can see this little pointer, you see my pointer now?
Yes.
In the previous submittal in 2012, we had to build a berm along North Parsons up here on the area that was permitted for stockpiling. That was done, and it was done timely. Where the traveling public gets confused is this area down here that we are now asking for, the 29 acres, that was not under the control of Northwest Arkansas Quarries at the time. It was not included in the 2012 conditional use permit, and we had no rights to build a berm there. They didn't own the property. The reason we're adding this 29 acres in is because the Hunts have purchased that property. We're including it in our lease, and we do intend to build a berm, just like there is on the north, to protect the line of sight of the traveling public there. The new mining area that's been talked about, the 150 acres, is on the other side to the east and to the north of our existing pit. Now I want to talk a little bit about phasing. You heard that in the comments just briefly before. There was a lot of discussion about it back in January. We thought a lot about those comments, and even in the comments earlier, what you heard is the issue of phasing, as we took it from the board, was not about time as much as it was about control. So what I'm showing you here is a phased approach that is a rough phasing that is what we would call a mine plan. Numbers 1 through 5 is the order that we would intend to mine this property. We would first move to the north into phase 1, then to the east into phase 2, and then down to the southeast through 3, 4, and 5. One of the reasons that we're uncomfortable with a timed phase plan is that we're dealing with a natural deposit. An example we gave in the meeting we had last Monday with the neighborhood committee is it's entirely possible that we move north into phase 1 and come through a portion of the deposit that isn't of good quality. And we may need to move to the east into what's described as phase 3 here for some short time, 2 months, 6 months, a year, while we prepare phase 1 to get back into. We have to keep our options open because, like I said, this is a natural deposit. Variations in the deposit may dictate a change in our plans. So the only way we could really phase the conditional use permit would simply be to come in here with a smaller conditional use permit and be ready to ask for permission at some future date. Rather than doing that, what we're asking the board to consider is designating this a mine. It's a long-term plan with the conditions that we've proposed and any other conditions that you guys can come up with to mitigate the impact to the community based on the fact that this is an existing quarry. Having a long-term commitment can allow us to make the financial investments we'd like to deal with some of the conditions that we're going to propose. And it would help with the roadway conditions. It should help the counties to be able to make the investments over time to have the right road network here, rather than this site potentially being a short-term site and for folks like us or competitors to be looking for other sites to start more quarries in the area. And I'd like to remind everyone, both the public listening in and the board, that if there's a condition placed on this, there's a condition. Those conditions are applicable from the first minute of this conditional use approval. If the committee would like to have, or if the board would like to have some kind of an annual review process, or if Nathan's folks would like to come out every so often and make sure we're still in compliance, we're completely open to that. Now I want to spend a minute talking about the impacts as we see it of this incremental conditional use permit. As Nathan noted, utilities and roads are unchanged. There's no additional demand. To be clear about this expansion area, based on those maps we showed you, the plant stays the same. The plant operates at the same rate. We sell to the same customers. The volume of trucks on the road is not different. This is just additional reserves that over the next decades will be mined through the same plant. One interesting impact that we'd like to point out is the drainage, just as far as storm drainage is considered, will be improved by this big hole in the ground. Our water is controlled by our ADEC permit. We have a sump in the bottom of the pit. We test it monthly, and we only discharge if the tests are good. The only issues we ever have with our water is if we let too much of our fine dust get in it, it gets a little basic and we have to dig the fines out. But we monitor it, and when we do discharge, it's some of the cleanest water in the area. Again, from a compatibility standpoint, the processing, the stockpiling, the loadout, and the ticketing remain unchanged. The second point here I want to talk about compatibility is that we are going to buffer the expansion area along North Parsons Road, and we are open to buffering to protect the views from the Friendship neighbor and the folks to the left, or to the east, I should say, to the east of our facility. From a public health and safety perspective, other than the blasting getting nearer certain properties, there's not a material change in the effects on the general public. There will be no negative impact on water quality. because as I mentioned before, the discharges are monitored by ADEC. The other thing I mentioned earlier is this kind of a long-term mine ought to assist the county with orderly development in the area. This will be a good source of material for the concrete plants and asphalt plants and county road department in the area for the long term. And it should avoid other quarries having to open up in the nearby area or having to shift to a different location and potentially different road networks. So now I would like to talk a little bit about the neighbor relations piece of this presentation. We left the January meeting understanding that we needed to do a better job. So before the pandemic set in, we started a PR effort. We knocked on almost 300 doors. We talked to almost 100 people face to face. We mailed a little packet clarifying the map. If you guys remember well, that the parcel map was a big source of confusion with the neighbors back in January. So we mailed them a new map explaining where we were actually proposing to mine versus all of those parcels. And then we had a February open meeting where 24 people showed up. Then at some point after that open meeting, we entered the post-COVID period. We shifted the knocking on the doors and the face-to-face conversations to phone calls and emails, reached out to 294 neighbors that way. We had about 85 phone and email conversations. Then in mid-October, we had a socially distanced in-person open house at the quarry, and we also had a Zoom open house. We had 8 people show up in person and 7 people showed up on the Zoom meeting. So our takeaway from this is that the numbers were dwindling because we were answering people's questions. There's been some talk, and I want to just clarify that we have begun a neighborhood committee. We are having regular meetings. There is some deeper conversation going on in there about impacts, ways to mitigate the impacts, looking at some of our data and talking to them frankly about what our plans are. We've had 3 meetings with them so far. There's been 2 members from the Hunt folks, 2 members with Rogers Group, and 12 neighbors on that committee meeting. So with all those meetings with the committee and with the open houses, I'd just like to kind of summarize the concerns we've heard, which are very similar to what you guys have heard tonight. The noise, the vibration of the blasts are a concern, monitoring the blasts and the blasting notifications, trucks being tarped, tracking dust out onto the road, and the habits of the truck drivers are all issues. On the operation side, they bring up the noise, the dust, the lighting, and the hours. Road generally are an issue, but we've worked with the county and Washington County and Benton County to hopefully improve those road conditions, but that's kind of out of our direct control. Conditions related to the compatibility are the water quality. You heard that from the Beaver Water District. I think we've satisfied their concerns. The buffers and berms and the views, you've heard some of that tonight. Obviously communication based on that first meeting. And yes, people are obviously concerned about the property values. I think you should have seen a study that I attached to the record. I don't know if you guys took the time to read it all, but it's a study based on property values around quarries, and they actually use one of our Rogers Group quarries here in Tennessee. And the economist applied all the different mathematical principles they could, and they could not come to a conclusion that having a house by a quarry impacts your property values. So to summarize this quickly and then open it up to where you guys can ask me any specific questions, I've got a lot more slides in here. I've essentially got the slide deck that we presented to the neighbors here. So if we need to get into details on any of these issues, please just ask a question. I can shift to some visuals and some commentary to help with that. But here are our commitments. From a blasting standpoint, we have fixed seismographs monitoring in the east and to the kind of northeast. We keep track of every one of our blasts and we share those records with the neighborhood committee. We can add a monitor to anybody's yard. We have been doing that these last 9 months, 10 months. We can add it to your yard upon request and we can watch the data with you. Again, quarterly, the data will be shared with the committee, and anybody that wants to be on the blasting notifications can just reach out either to your committee member or to us We've got an email that is outreach@rogersgroupinc.com. You send an email there letting us know you want to be on that blast notification system. We'll get you added. On the trucking side, we've had 2 meetings with the truck drivers this summer, letting them know that tarping the trucks and driving safely are expected and enforced. We've suspended some people. We've told some owners to get certain drivers off of our property, and we're more than happy to do that. The reality on the ground is those guys are third parties, and they come in and they buy rock and then they pull out of our gate. We're happy to help police it, and we're happy to get help from neighbors and any other traveling public. We're also committed to replacing our wheel wash system. Our wheel wash system isn't so bad that we're violating any rules, but it's just not doing as good a job as we'd like it to, and not as good a job as the neighbors like it to. So here in 2021, we're going to be installing an upgraded wheel wash system. On the operations side, I sent something to Nathan specifically about the limit to our hours of operations that we committed to with the committee on Monday. We've been working back and forth with those guys. You know, some people prefer the evenings, some people prefer the weekends. So sort of a negotiated landing point that we proposed was this. On Fridays, we'll be closed at 5 o'clock. On Saturdays, we'll be shut down. Let me clarify that. Shut down as far as running our plant goes. Saturdays will be shut down at noon, and we won't operate on Sundays. So after 5 p.m. on Friday, after noon on Saturday, and all day Sunday, there will be no operating the plant. There will be no blasting. The only thing that will go on during those periods, if it's required by a customer project, is loading out trucks and delivering. I'm sure you guys are aware from time to time, there are jobs that have to be done on the weekend. And if we have to load out some customers for those specific jobs, we will, but we won't be open outside of those areas, outside of those hours generally. On the road condition side, we heard from Washington County and Benton County that both counties are committed to maintaining the roads in the area. I really do think that knowing that this quarry is here for the long term would help those quarries integrate some maintenance projects around the quarry into their plans. And finally, here on compatibility, we are fine with the 72-acre conservation easement that the Beaver Water District presented to us. We are going to build that road buffer along the 29 acres. We are fine with our use of that 29 acres being conditioned on that buffer being built. We have proposed a ridge buffer to the east, again, to shield the views to the east of the quarry. We're committed to have the ongoing neighborhood committee, as Nathan mentioned in his comments. And we're also committed through the Hunt folks to the neighbors. And I think Ken Sheeman, who's a representative of the Hunt folks, would like to talk a little bit about that. He's had a lot of the direct conversations with that group of neighbors that I have not. Can Ken raise his hand, Nathan, and jump into the meeting here?
Just not seeing it.
Ken, if you're on, please raise your hand.
He's logged in as Catherine May.
Okay, Catherine works in his office there. They may be on her PC.
Okay, one moment. Edith, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you're on.
Okay, thank you. Ken Sheeman, on behalf of John L. who's in the room with me. I made a representation to 2 of the neighbors on Friendship. And in addition to the 72 acres for the easement, Mrs. Hunt has agreed as follows: that upon approval of the Hunt Rogers expansion request as proposed, Mrs. Hunt has committed to the Friendship community and surrounding neighbors to incorporate the remaining acreage east of the expansion and adjoining Beaver Lake to be a preservation area to allow for additional measures of protection for the Beaver Lake watershed to ensure the community of future land use while allowing for aesthetically pleasing panoramic views. In addition, Mrs. Hunt is willing to make the above a condition of the expansion. Mrs. Hunt agrees that all commitments offered by her will be completed and fully implemented prior to the starting of any new mining in the requested Hunt Rogers Quarry expansion area. This agreement not only preserves the land in its present state, but ensures the surrounding community that the land will only be utilized for livestock and other natural utilization. Mrs. Hunt and her family are committing to this perpetual agreement to confirm that the property will not be used for building subdivisions or other structures for commercial uses other than domesticated livestock production. At the request of some of the community members, Mrs. Hunt and her family are agreeable with respect to naming the preservation area for the benefit of the community. Mrs. Hunt and her family are agreeing if any third-party agreements are made with Beaver Water District or other affiliations associated with Beaver Water District, it will not in any way affect or limit any amenities or access to the boat dock, the established paved parking area located west and south of the low water bridge, the dirt road leading from the paved parking area to the Beaver Lake core boundary line and surrounding area. And finally, as an additional condition, Hunt Rogers Material and Mrs. Hunt and her family have mutually agreed to a joint venture effort to promote vegetation efforts in the newly designed preservation area to plant a variety of evergreen and deciduous species of trees to create a vegetative barrier. The tree planting will be placed as best suitable for the community to provide aesthetically pleasing views for years to come. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Did you have any concluding remarks?
No, I just wanted to put it back to you guys on the commission or on the board to ask any questions you guys might have. I do have detailed plans we can look at on any of these. If you want to look at the conservation easement or the road buffers or anything along those lines, I can walk you through that in more detail. I just didn't want to bore you with all of it in one big long stretch.
Okay, well, we will therefore close time for public comment, and let's begin a dialogue here with the board and with proponents on what we are considering. So I'll shut up for a minute, and board members, you have questions or comments as we proceed here?
If we would
Well, we missed
conduct our,
just after that, if you wouldn't mind starting over.
okay, one question I have for you, Nathan, is if we want to make sure they are compliant annually, do you have adequate staff to do that once a year just to make sure that they are accountable?
Well, sure, we can go out for an inspection, but it may be best for a third party, or it may be best for us to have a very defined checklist of what we're going to be inspecting for. In my opinion, we could act at the pleasure of the board.
Okay, and I think they said they had agreed to buffer the for the protection of the additional neighbors that were concerned. I think he stated that.
The second
Yes.
conservation easement area.
Yeah.
That's the way I understood it as well.
Would you like to see what we're proposing? I think it's an interesting thing to look at if you have interest in it.
Pop it up, Andrew.
Okay. For those of you that aren't really familiar with the site, essentially the mine area that we are mining right now is a ridge line, and there are some gullies between these ridge lines. We did an analysis to look from the Friendship View Drive to the west and take a look at what they can see once they brought it to our attention, that they can see those ridge lines that are inside of the mining plan. One thing that's really important to note is as we go into phase 1 to the north of our existing pit and to phase 2, Those are in the red areas here. The red areas of here cannot be seen at this point. You know, the ballpark for those phases is 5 to 10 to 15 years each. So we have plenty of time to create something over here to the east to shield these views. What we've modeled is a couple of lines of trees 20 foot tall over here to the east. And as you can see, if those are planted correctly on those ridge lines and at the right height and of the right species, then the entire expansion area becomes red. No one sees it. So that is the goal. That's not a, you know, that's not a specific design that we want to be held to, but that's kind of the concept, is we want to agree with those neighbors that we'll go over there and shield their view with something that looks natural, so they don't see us up on those knobs.
I guess I have a question, Nathan, regarding how to proceed. I mean, obviously we can vote here in a minute. We have a motion, however that goes. Deny, we know appeal process is open, but if we approve, just how do we nail down with certainty these suggestions that they've made just now, which I don't know how much time you've had to view, and
new to me.
Yeah, and to make that gel with your list, what's a process that we could engage in to get clarification?
We can take a few minutes and we can go through my list and we can go through Andrew's list and we can compile one. Or I can get back with you next month just with a list for everyone to review, not as in a hearing, but just as other business on the agenda. Or honestly, it would be, I guess there's a few different ways we could do it, but
yeah. Well, Ms. Hunt's comments as well would need to be incorporated as presented by her attorney. And ideas, I'm sure we can come up with an idea to better articulate annual review. You know, first thought that comes to my mind is a third-party engineer retained by the county and paid by the applicant to present that. I don't know if it should go to the quorum court or us. You know, I just thinking through that, and I don't know that I have an idea.
We could approve contingent upon receiving or the board voting in favor of the compiled list. We could compile it now, or we could table it and bring it back with that list at the next planning board meeting as other business. However,
but I do want to let everybody know, I think
business next time, but
go ahead, Andrew.
I think Nathan has a list that was my articulation of these. I think he also has a list from Ken. I'm sure those came in too late for him to spend a whole lot of time thinking about them today. I do think the deadline of this meeting really was the only thing that kind of brought these issues to a head with the neighbors to get to some of these agreements. So I'd like for us, if we can, you know, get some kind of an approval subject to clarifying these, that would be fantastic. A simple tabling might put a whole bunch of these agreements at risk, just based on, as you witnessed, Nathan, how this all kind of came together at the last minute here. I don't want to kind of open Pandora's box back up, if that makes sense.
I've got the lists in front of me. If you'd like me to put them on screen, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, let's take a look at that again. Thank you.
Okay. Just a moment here. So on the left here, I have the bullet points from Mr. Shimon, Mrs. Hutt's attorney, and then in this email here, Andrew, is this the email from you? Is this the entirety of the list, or was this just our conversation at that time?
Yeah, that was the list. You see there the committee being established, the wheel wash, the berm along North Parsons, the hours of operation, which I've detailed there. And one thing I failed to mention, we've replaced all of our traditional loud backup alarms that kind of pierce through the air at long distances with a white noise type backup alarm. And we're in agreement to make that a mandatory requirement so that we don't go back to those loud beeping backup alarms.
And to your original list, Nathan, we're running out of screen space here, but the list that you had attached. Yeah, that one.
There's a lot of redundancy here. There's hours of operation there. There's lighting, which was already a condition in 2012. The only one, and I asked this question earlier, we do pay a mineral severance tax that comes back to the county that we feel is supposed to be used to kind of help with the roads around there. I'm not sure what was meant on this comment about funding. We're fine to work with the county to work on a regular routine patch and repair cycle. I'm just not sure what Ms. Hunt's commitment was to fund. I don't know if that's what it was meant to read.
I think Mr. Shimon can get me a Word document of this, or I can type it up in a few minutes. I was just trying to compile a list on a separate screen here, but unless you guys want to wait, 3-4 minutes for me to type all that.
Has our counsel joined us? I know he was not going to be available. I don't know if he's dialed in yet or not.
Let me see.
The county attorney.
Right. Let me see if he's in the room. I don't see him here.
Okay. I know he had a conflict. I
do have two hands up. Side note, I know it's not what we're talking about, but I've got hands up from Rick Parsons, who has neighboring property to the south, and JP Patrick Deacons again.
Yeah, we concluded our public comment period, so we're now in deliberation with the board.
Mr. Chairman, can I make
Sure.
I may have started a little of this when I started talking about a phased approach or a timed approach. And I guess really what I was trying to get to was what is the what would be the alarm that the community would send to us or to the quarry that, hey, they're not satisfied and they want something changed. How are they going to hold their hand up to us and say, we want you to come and we're talking about an annual thing now, which might suffice, but if there's a problem, I don't want people to have to wait a whole year to I'm sure they'll first go to the quarry and say, we got problems. Mm-hmm. But if that doesn't satisfy them, what is the mechanism to get, the county's control into it, I guess, is my question.
Certainly a challenge. I've been on the planning board for 20-something years, and we've been reactive to problems, as you suggest, because we don't have staff to do policing. And we've been able to work those out. I know that's very vague. So I answer is, Philip, I don't know of a better answer than that we would deal with calls.
Might I make a recommendation?
A little bit.
Yeah.
We've faced issues like that with other projects and that had their CUPs, and it's been made clear that we're a regulatory office, not an enforcement office. And so we don't go out and shut people down. It's not what we're in the business to do here in the planning office. But whenever applicants have their approvals in hand and they're operating their business, whenever they're operating outside the conditions that were approved, then that becomes a civil matter between that applicant and those neighbors who are opposing the issue. And the short-term remedy to get the ball rolling lately has tended to be that they could call the sheriff's department and the sheriff could come out and take a note and then issue a court date for them to go hash it out in front of a judge.
It might be something as simple as something that nobody has thought about, or as the Hunt people hadn't addressed it to their satisfaction, and they want somebody to go to, and us as the county will be the person they want to go to.
When you use clarification, Philip, Nathan, when you say go for the judge, you mean Judge Wood, the county judge, or court judge?
Circuit.
Okay.
Well,
might I make a recommendation to the board?
Certainly open to ideas.
In some of the other situations we've gotten into in the other states that we operate in, when we get to a point like this, we've had boards designate an ombudsman whose name and phone number is published in the minutes of the conditional use permit. And then the county can reach out directly to that person. The neighbors know to reach out directly to that person. Sometimes what we find with the neighbors is they just call the clerk working at the desk who's trying to get a truck off the scales, and it doesn't always get handled appropriately. That's just an idea.
Basically just a designated representative of the neighborhood for everyone to, they would be the ones to carry the complaint around. Okay.
Yeah, and then you guys would have a single point to go to, and so would the neighbors. That's how it's worked in some areas for us.
But it would be hard to go out there and say, you're only going to work in this area for the next 5 years. I can see how that's not really going to work. But the idea was, I want you to be accountable and maybe have to go through some process in some length of time to make sure that everybody is still, I guess, comfortable with what's going on, I guess, would be the best
In
thing to say.
arenas where I've seen ombudsman work it's the report that nobody wants, right? I mean, nobody wants the report to be given to the quorum court or the county judge that these are the complaints we got this month and we followed up and the company's ignoring them. It's that is the stick that gives you. And other experiences I've had with a third party reporting site is they're just sort of a hotline, if you will. And they look into matters, which is expensive. They're not free, that somebody would have to pay for that as well. So.
Okay. Well, that was the whole purpose of my comments earlier, was to get some accountability to the public out there, and not so much accountability to the county, but to the people that actually live in the community.
Well, the committee that we've established and we're committed to have meet is members of the community. I don't know that it's appropriate to have those people's names published for everybody else, but we're going to be meeting with this small committee. We've got our people on it, and people are welcome to come to those meetings. Somebody from the county could be in those meetings once a year or something. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any points that we've brought up that could be litigated because there's no real contract that's been made between the parties.
Yeah. So do we think we have if we think we have the points covered sufficiently in these three separate lists, I can conceive us approving the CUP conditioned upon review of that synergized list at the next meeting that will include an adequate reporting mechanism, ombudsman, annual review by an engineer and or both. Trying to figure out a direction forward here.
Well, maybe
or we can vote to deny it, or we can vote to table it. We can do any of those. So procedurally, Nathan, does that sound like something you could work with?
It's something I could work with. And I hate
to get back to us procedurally, you think it's sufficient instruction to know what you're doing? Okay.
So.
Additional ideas or comments or motions? I am open to that.
Mr. Chairman, I think I would like to make a motion to approve the Rogers quarry with the comments that you made and the all the combined list together, that meets our approval. I would like to make that motion.
Is that with the ombudsman?
Yes.
Yeah. And
second,
other reporting enforcement mechanism. Sorry, I was talking. Second was, did I hear a second?
Yeah, second, Jay.
Okay, thank you, Jay. I knew I heard a voice. Okay, we have a motion that we would approve the CUP with condition that the staff would report to us. Their assignment would be to consolidate these sundry things and to spend enough time fleshing them out to make sure there's not duplications and or something gets missed, as well as a review of a reporting process back to, again, us or the quorum court or whoever they decide. So that's sort of the motion. In a second, if that's properly stated.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments on the board? Any debate of that?
How often are you proposing to have the reporting process? Once a year, twice a year?
I would like to have it twice a year to keep them more in compliant, but I know that's a big requirement. But
I think as you work through it, you'll find out the ombudsman's supposed to report whatever activity he has. If it's monthly, he sends it monthly. If it's
okay.
That'd be my thoughts, but if it wasn't that way, then at least twice a year. But I would think he would do that, or she, whoever.
Just as it comes up, they need to report.
That's right.
They spend some time checking into it because you don't want it to turn into just a hotline that is abused. So they do some preliminary investigation. Okay, good discussion. Anything further on the board? Are you comfortable enough to vote? Jay, I can't see your head because you don't have your camera on. All right.
Yes.
All right, motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, gives us something to work with and see if we can't finalize something that everybody won't like, but hopefully there's something good for everybody in it. So thank you for that. And I'll give the gavel back to the chairman.
Well, may I point out that we have large scale development next.
Okay, I don't have an agenda because I wasn't chairing. I didn't know I was going to chair. So
fair enough. But let me just ask, would you be more agreeable to hearing the large scale now or after we get this list put together next meeting?
After we get the list.
That makes sense to...
It makes sense to me if the proponent, if they're okay with the proponent, I'd rather do that.
So we're agreeing to approve the CUP subject to hashing out these compiled lists of conditions to be included in the LSD proposal.
And then we would approve that list, and then we would go straight to LSD at the next meeting if it's ready to next meeting.
That would be fine. I don't think we're going to have any deep disagreements about those conditions. It's just going to be a bunch of semantics and compiling and copying and pasting.
Yeah, hopefully we've covered all of them tonight. That would be the spirit of it. Nothing new pulled out by anybody at a later hour.
Yep.
Okay, so if we did that, I guess I would need a motion to table the large scale development to the next meeting. Is that correct?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to table large scale development to be considered after completion of the detail list in the CUP. Discussion. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There being none. Okay, good. Now can I give the gavel back?
Sorry, Randy. I just assumed based on the conflict of interest and what was on on the agenda that you would have assumed that you would have taken over on those two. I apologize for that.
Yeah, it's public record. I should have been in my heads up, but anyway.
So,
It's deer season. I've been deer hunting this week. So.
yeah, there you go. But it's
I'll talk
warm,
to
it's
you,
been
everyone.
short. So, all right, we'll move on to other business then.
Andrew,
Nathan?
Andrew, do you
Oh,
have a point
sorry.
of clarity? I'm sorry.
No, I just said thank you. You might want to
Okay.
mute me. I'm going to start closing
Yeah.
it up here.
All
Take
right, good. Thank you. I'm sorry, Joel.
All right, nothing else, then back to it. And Nathan, other business.
The only other business we have is the upcoming planning board meetings. And we've got one coming up December 10th and then another one on January 14th. And by next planning board meeting, we'll have a draft of the 2021 submittal planning board calendar for you to review. And thank you. That's it.
All right, if nothing else, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.